Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me tonight. This is a topic that we've come back to several times. Basically, when I do this group, for any of you who are newcomers, when I do the group, we discuss either organizing stuff, which includes decluttering stuff, or time management or habit formation. So here we are back on habit formation, which is really the key to an awful lot of things. I'm going to read you some quotes. I only picked three. There's a lot more than I have about habit formation, but I just think that it's interesting to see how many people have thought about this thing. Robert Puller, I don't know who he is, said good habits, once established, are just as hard to break as bad habits. So that's good to know, right? Men's natures are all alike. It is their habits that separate them. That's Confucius. Okay, and Plutarch, so now we're going back, choose what is best, I'm sorry, and habit will make it pleasant and easy. And Thomas à Kempis said, habit is overcome by habit. Okay, so habits are really the key to so many things in our life. We all have habits. Some we're grateful for. Others seem to want to trip us up at every turn. And I agree with Plutarch that having good habits makes life easier. And basically, that's the reason to have, good habits. Because everything, it seems, will go easier in your life if you do. So I think that tonight we're going to be talking a lot about starting new habits. And also kind of getting rid of bad habits. But basically, it's the same thing, because if you want to have good habit, if you want to break a bad habit, you really have to substitute it with a good habit. You have to change the habit that you have to something that works better for you. All right. So if you're in this, sure,
Pat, I just want to, well, I don't know whether this falls in one of the other categories. Like, I was developing good habits, and then I went away for a month on and off, and I have really bad habits now, which including going to bed very late because of the Democratic convention. That's not helping anything.
Yeah.
But so where does that? It's like is it almost like developing new habits from start, or is there any cumulative effect?
I would say not necessarily. Oh, and while we're talking here, I just want to say to anybody, please feel free to jump in, because this group is always better when people do ask questions or give advice, because some of you have been in a situation I've never been in before, and it's very helpful. So please feel free to discuss. And look, sometimes if your regular routine is disrupted, sometimes the habits go the way of the dodo. But that doesn't mean that you can't get them back. What it takes is, I think, a little thinking about what it was you were doing before. And it may mean that you can't just change everything back like overnight. But if you pick one thing, whatever it was, like maybe the most useful for you, or what you were that was most helpful, I guess, is what I'm thinking of, and concentrate on that one. All right. And what did you do before? How can you get that to work? Don't think about everything that fell by the wayside, but pick one thing and work on that. Can you give us an example of something that you might be willing to share, besides going to bed late? Because that was a different circumstance.
Everything, not getting up, not eating, at regular times, not putting time aside to declutter like I was doing it regularly, and then I fell off the wagon on that too. And I was doing so well, and then it just stopped,
Right.
So just, anything that you've ever talked about, I stopped doing.
Okay. Well, one of the things I might suggest is make a schedule. Sounds too rigid, I know, but put down the hours of the day And think about one thing, just work on one thing at a time. So for instance, like eating, put meal times down and even set an
Yeah.
alarm on your phone if you need to. And okay, it's like 12:15. I'm going to eat. That's my time. The buzzer went off. I got to eat. And try to work around that. Like you use your phone as a bully, or a kitchen timer or something along that line, so that you kind of get back into the habit that you had before. And then if you've seemed to get that down, we're okay, like I'm having dinner at 6, I'm eating breakfast at 8, or whatever times you're used to eating. And then I would say, okay, I'll move on. What else? A load of wash a day, or every 2 days, or whatever your schedule, whatever it is that you're not doing that you should be doing, because you know what they are. We don't know what they are, and we don't need to know everything. But you don't have to change everything at once. But you might be surprised that if you do one of these things, then some of the others will fall into line by themselves. Because most of us have like a schedule of some sort or other. So we do this at this time and this at the other time. So if you're eating at lunch at 12, let's say, and then when you finish lunch, maybe you do up a couple of dishes or something, and then you do, like there might be a regular thing you do. Like I go out, I do run my errands, or whatever it is. And if you start getting back on schedule in one way, it may help you, with other things that you don't expect it to help you with. I don't know if
Okay.
that's, you know,
Oh no, I think one of the most profound things you just said was don't look at the whole thing. Just just pick that one thing,
right,
because the whole thing is just overwhelming me, and
right.
my taxes still aren't done, so that gives you some idea.
Well, see, that's another thing. I would say write down the things you're concerned about or you want to get back into. And then you might want to put a star next to the one or two that are like, like I gotta get this, accomplished. But then also attach a time to it.
Mm,
Because to the degree that you have any flexibility in your days, I think that one of the biggest things is, like after breakfast I do this, or after lunch I do that, or like I always shop at, like after breakfast on Tuesday or something. So that if you get into that mindset, sometimes things will begin to fall into line. So, okay.
thank
Um,
you for
we'll see. Feel free to jump in. Beverly, you're always one of the, my best discussants. um,
thank,
okay.
thank you for giving me permission. I felt bad interrupting you, but I
No,
thought,
no, because I think it's good, and I hope that everybody else who's on here, if they have a suggestion for you or for me, or they have a question, or they have an experience they want to share, that they will join in, because it makes the group a better group. So,
so
um,
Pat, just so you know, I'm going to turn off my video now because I'm eating dinner too late. But anyway, I'll be back.
okay, well, you can listen in. It's okay. All right.
Yes.
So, all right. All right. Okay. And I think I may have said this, I don't remember. I have some notes here. One of the things about breaking bad habits really does mean substituting good habits, and really basically what Beverly was saying has to kind of fed into that. Um, okay, if you've been in this group before, and some of you have, but I don't know how many of you. Um, you hear about my morning habits, which sounds crazy. But if you linked habits kind of form a routine. And my routine is get up, shower, get dressed, come down to the kitchen, put on the coffee, because what's more important than coffee in the morning? And then what I usually do while the coffee's brewing, I've also, when I've come from the bedroom, I bring down my laundry. Okay. And then I put my coffee on. And then I take while the coffee's brewing, I go down to the basement with the laundry and the recycling and garbage if it's garbage day. And then I'll go out to I'll go down to the basement. I will put out the garbage if I need to put out the garbage or the recycling. I will sort the recycling. Actually, before I take the recycling out, I'll sort it. And then I will come back in, I'll put a load of wash in. And by the time I come upstairs, my coffee's ready. So then that comes one of the highlights of my day, which is to sit down with a pot of coffee. Really, I drink almost a whole pot of coffee, and do my crosswords because that's what, brings me joy in life. And that's the payoff for my routine. Now, there's a lot of things but I do those things without thinking. I don't have to, now what am I going to do next? Or when am I going to do this? Or how's that going to get done? It just gets done. So those things get done after I finish my coffee and my crosswords and whatever, I'll and maybe do a couple other, little tiny things around the house. I will go down to get the laundry, put the laundry in the dryer, or hang it up on the drying rack, or whatever needs to be done with it, so that later in the day I can, take it upstairs, fold it up, and iron it. So, um, that's those things get done without my conscious input. In the morning, I might not be too conscious, especially before the coffee. But they just happen, and it's so it's not a thing like, oh my goodness, what am I going to get? When am I going to do this? It's done. And there are a lot of things that you can do. Usually at night, maybe like around 9 o'clock, 9:15 or something, I'll go up and I'll iron because I don't mind ironing. A lot of people do. I don't. And I'll watch something on television that I've recorded, and I will do my ironing. And then usually I'll go to bed, usually around 10 o'clock. So, those are things that, uh, you know, kind of get me through through the day. I have a lot of other time, which is like unscheduled, and this isn't all written down or anything like that. But once you get in the habits, you'll do them, and things will just kind of fall into place. But establishing a habit in the first place can take a lot of effort, especially if it's something that you feel you have to do, but you don't want to do. Then you're going to have to use some different techniques. So um, um, actually, I should ask you, how do your habits help you? And It's not really a rhetorical question. I don't know how much this group is going to be, chatty. I wish it were, but I can't promise that. I'd like you to share, if you can, your positive experiences. If you have a habit that you think is working well for you, if it helps you function and everything else, I really wish you would share it with us. If not now, like sometime during the evening, so that we can take advantage of that. Because like people shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. If somebody in the group has a solution to somebody else's problem, or a success they'd like to share that might help somebody else, I'd really like to hear from you. Um, okay. All right. So how do we start a new habit? And this, I'm going to be referring to some of these things because different people have different things that they focus on. Um, uh, James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, he's maybe my favorite habit guru. Okay. Um, uh, he says start with the small stuff. And sometimes that seems almost silly, like that you should start with small stuff. The example that he gives is, if you want to run, I'm going to run, 20 minutes a day, because I want to get in shape. He'll say, start by putting the running shoes next to your bed. That's like the first step, or put your running clothes out on the night table or whatever. And then that's enough, you know? And maybe in a day or two, put those clothes on. Then maybe a little bit after that, go outside with your clothes on and fetch the paper. So that you're gradually building up, so that it's not like, oh my goodness, I have to get out there and run 20 minutes a day starting today, and I'm going to do 20 minutes every day. Because sometimes you're easing yourself into it. So it becomes the habit where you get up, you put your running shoes on. Okay, so that's kind of like has you already, partway there. And you know, e- Eventually, you will develop that habit as long as you're consistent, and that's one of the things we're gonna talk about, is being consistent about do getting out there and doing that, like, every day. Um, because it's very difficult to have a habit, although not impossible. Like, if you tie a habit to something that you do every week, um, then, like, for instance, when I go out to the grocery store, I'm gonna stop by, I don't know, you know, it's hard for me to think of something right now, but like another habit that would work out. This is my errand day. Tuesday is my errand day, and I'm going to, do all these different errands. I'll put them on a list, and I'll just take the list and go out and do my errands. So, so that's something that so that every Tuesday, it just is, you're not going to sit around maybe reading the paper, till noon because it's your errand day. You've got to get out there and do those errands. Okay. Um, There's another guru, Wendy Wood. She wrote a book, Good Habits, Bad Habits, which is a little dense. Like, I don't know if I recommend it or not because it's a lot of it at the beginning is research, and there has been a lot of psychological research into habit formation. Reading this book at the beginning kind of brought me back right back to my doctoral program and like, all this research and dissecting these things and how many subjects in the trials and how many the 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 parameters are in around the experiment and whatever. So it can be a bit of a slog. But one of the things I thought that she was interested in, she did talk about what it takes to establish a habit, right? And I have this written down. One of the things is context. So it really helps if it's something that you can do in the same place at the same time of day, and that will really help you establish the habit. When you're in a particular environment, that will really move your habit along. And we'll talk a little bit later about bad habits, but that also holds true for bad habits. You really got to change um, the connections that you have between this situation and doing the thing that you don't want to do. Um, but anyway, so that's one of the things is context. And then she has reward, and it's a little bit tougher for me to talk about rewards because actually, to me, doing the new habit is the reward. It's what you really want. That's really the goal. And that kind of should be a reward in itself. But I know that sometimes it's harder to get there if you don't have that. So uh she did suggest, and this I do think might work, like gamifying it a bit, like uh sometimes like using an app or making some kind of a game out of the thing that you want to do can be very helpful. And that can be kind of like rewarding. Um, and I I think you only need the reward necessarily until the habit is established, and then it probably wouldn't be necessary. But if you like to be gaming your way through, that's fine too. Um, and then consistency. Um, the thing about consistency is it takes away the thinking. Just like I talked about my morning habits in the morning. Like I don't have to think about that. Oh, what am I going to do? And like, oh, run back upstairs for the laundry, or whatever. No, because I do it every day and it works for me. And so that's something that's very that really kind of pushes you along. You don't have to think about it. You just get it done. Okay. And really basically consistency is like is the basic function of a habit. It's a habit. You do it all the time. Um, and then one suggestion that you see a lot about habits, and I really think that this is a very important one, is managing the environment. Okay, so you especially know that for if your habit now is overeating, um, and you want to break that habit, then, that's the kind of thing where, don't bring the food into the house, okay? Don't bring it in, don't have it, even don't just some people will say, like, hide it away, which I suppose you could do that for other people. You could say to somebody, "Hide this, I don't wanna know where it is." But if you live by yourself or, or if you have a small space, you're not gonna find hiding places for this, so, but, just to change your environment. What is it about the environment that says, "Oh," makes it easy? You wanna do is make it harder. Or for instance, if, stopping off at the pub on the way home from work is a habit that you'd like to break. Um, uh, because people have been telling you you've been drinking too much. Then, reroute your way home so that you're not passing this place that you're so familiar with. You might pass another bar or pub or whatever, but it may not have the same draw. It's not the same people. It's, because that's kind of a situation. It's also camaraderie. You see the same, you're in there every night or a couple of nights a week, and you see the same people. So it helps to, you've got to say, okay, how can I disrupt this pattern? And that's one thing that, can be helpful to that, to changing a habit is to, disrupt the pattern that you have, the usual thing. Um, okay. Oh, well, another thing, I just wrote down a couple of examples, and one of the things I was like, if you're spending $5 on a coffee a day, because, oh, Starbucks is right by the office, like just about a half a block from the office or whatever. I stopped by, but, like, but like, that's a lot of money. And it might behoove you if you're really interested in pinching your pennies, especially if you have a particular goal in mind. Like I want it to I need to have more money in my bank account. So I need to be putting more money in the bank. Or I need to buy X, Y, or Z. And so I really have to save more money. Then, cutting out the expensive coffee every day may be helpful. So bring your coffee from home. You might have to get a little earlier to brew, some coffee, but it may work for you in the long run, not to have to, not be, subsidizing Starbucks every day. Um, so that's, okay. What I wrote this down. Um, I said in this business about changing your environment. I was raised Catholic, and in the language that we had, of my Catholic upbringing, you want to avoid the near occasion of sin. Which does mean about, like, changing it, that's like otherwise known as temptation. You want to avoid the temptations that, life puts in your way. And that's hard too. I'm not saying that that's going to be an easy thing. I'm just saying that that's like a first stop. Don't make your life difficult for yourself. So that's would be my advice. Um, so I have some other do's and don'ts here. Uh, do make things convenient. I mean, we talked about that a little bit, but do make things convenient. If you want something to happen, like with the running and leaving your clothes out, or you want to spend more time on your art, because I know we have at least one artist here. Make it convenient to get your materials, and maybe not have them, have them more accessible, not in the upstairs closet behind the, sheets or something. You want to have things so that you're making life easy for yourself, that you can get whatever it is you want to do done. If you want to read after dinner, you know, put those books that you want to read. First of all, it's at a time. You just want to read more, which is a lot of people's goal. I really need to read more. I enjoy reading so much, I mean, but you're not doing it. You may enjoy it a lot, but you're not doing it. Then I would suggest, what would make it easier. First of all, pick a time. Not It doesn't mean that you can't read at other times. Okay. And maybe for you, bedtime isn't the best time because you're going to bed like 11:30 and, like you're really tired and, you'll read a couple pages and then the book is on your chest and you're asleep. So pick a time when you can actually devote some attention to the task. And then, so you've got your time and it's before something you already do or after something you already do. So it's like, that for a half an hour after dinner or after I get the kids off to school or whatever would be a great time for you to spend a little focused time on reading. That's when you want to make that time, but it really has to be, for it to become a habit, it almost has to be linked to something that you're already doing. So after this or before that or whatever it is, you're going to read. And like this of course isn't for everybody, but like whatever it is that you want to do, think of a time that you could link it to something else because it really increases your chances of getting something done. Okay. Um, okay. All right. One of the things is don't make exceptions. Like if you start saying, okay, well, this is my new habit, except for this and except for that and except for the other thing, then it's not going to be a habit. Now, I am not saying that it can't be that you can never do that, but especially in the beginning, you've really got to be, leery of that. That it's got to be pretty much every single time. Now, I know if your spouse has to go to the emergency room or something, you're forgiven. You go, but for the most part, you have to stick to your plan here. Um, Okay. But the fact is that there are times that you can give yourself a break. Do not be a martyr. So if you've kind of sworn off cake, okay, and you go to a wedding and this is the most gorgeous cake you've ever seen your whole life, give yourself a break. If you haven't had cake for a month, unless you feel that having this one piece of cake is going to start you on the slippery slope toward perdition, like, go ahead, have your cake. It's one day. I'm only having cake because I'm at this wedding, and it'd be an insult to the baker if I didn't have this cake. Um, but if it's a special occasion, you can do that. Um, okay, don't try to change everything at once. That's a huge problem. Like if sometimes you think, oh, I'm going to remake myself. I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this. And you can change all those things. Just don't change them all at the same time because that's setting yourself up for failure. Because then you're going to feel like a martyr. And that's never a good idea. Um, do one thing at a time, enjoy your success. Sometimes it helps. We've talked in this group before about having an accountability partner. And in this case, it doesn't even have to necessarily be somebody who's also trying to change a behavior, but that would be helpful if you have a friend who wants to do, and it can be something completely different, not what you're doing, but the thing is, then you can report on, like, were you successful? Did you manage? How was it? So that can be helpful. But every once in a while, you can cut yourself some slack because, like I said, be like a wedding or some kind of a special occasion, you can do that. And All right, we talked about don't not changing everything at once, which is not a good idea. One thing at a time. And don't necessarily focus on the outcomes. Oh my goodness, I wanted to run 20 minutes a day and I can't even get out the door and walk for walk for like 5 minutes or something. Okay, fine. This is the early days. This is baby steps. You know, if you're heading toward your goal, you don't have to be on like a rocket, to your goal. You can just you can take it easy. But don't let it discourage you that you seem to be so far from where you want to be. That's okay. You can do that. Like you can uh you just have to deal with that, that this is, it's a slower process than you had hoped for. Or you thought that once you made up your mind, then that was going to be it. And it's not always it. That's going to be tough. But so I would say, like go easy on yourself. Um, you have be your own best friend. What would a good friend say to you in a time like this? That's what you have to think about. And then be that friend to yourself if you don't have a person that you're confiding in. And sometimes that's hard to confide in somebody because if you're trying to establish new habit, in some ways you're admitting a weakness or at least something about yourself that you want to change. And that's not always easy to do. But if you have somebody who you're close to and you can trust and then use that person, as long as they're okay with that, unload on them and spare yourself. Um, okay. And then, there are times, the last thing I have on here is like, say what the hell. Because sometimes it's really difficult and sometimes you fall down by the wayside and you can't get it done. But but you can just say, well, what the hell today, you know. But don't say like what I worry about is, something happens around noontime and you say, oh, like you're not perfect for the day anymore, so it doesn't matter. If you say what the hell at like 12:30, not so good. If you can't, finish and it's like 11:30 at night, yeah, what the hell? Those are things that I think that we should think about. Um, I thought we'd have more discussion, to tell you the truth. If there's any questions I can answer, anything you want to suggest, I'm open to that. Anybody? Beverly, please.
Yeah, well, I actually do have something,
Good,
and it
good.
has to do with, yeah, it has to do with the schedule, when
Uh-huh.
you build a schedule,
Yeah.
because there are certain things that I have going on different days. Like if I say, well, I'm gonna have breakfast at 8, I'll give you an example. Tomorrow, haircut. I got to be in Yorktown Heights at 8. That's gonna it destroys my schedule today. So like I'm
Careful about
never.
those, making those appointments.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that's probably true. Although this is the time she likes me to come.
Right, okay.
So, but yeah, so you have that, right? And
Mhm.
so then what do you do with the schedule? I don't know what to do. Like to eat breakfast before or after, and then I don't it like shoots the day, and then I don't know what to do. Or another day I have qigong. Well, actually 2 days a week I have qigong at 8:30, and the same thing happens. It's like, do you make a different schedule for those days or what? I'm not sure. Like, in other words, I can't keep the same schedule every day. It doesn't
Okay.
work.
Yeah, and that's that, and then for a lot of people that's true. For depends on like if you're in my stage of life, you're babysitting grandkids sometimes, like it doesn't always, they come at 8 o'clock. Oh. That's when I read my paper and do my crosswords, whatever. No, not today, sweetie. Um, so but you might have to think in terms of like if this, then that. So
Mm.
and what I don't know what would work for you. Like for instance, some things that you do at 8 o'clock or 8:30 in the morning, it would be not so late afterwards. Other times you're going to get up earlier, or you're going to have to skip the shower, or you're going to do, like you're going to have to change things to accommodate the appointments. To the extent you can, I would say make the
Yeah.
appointments to fit your usual routine so that you have your routine. But I know you can't always do that. So, you just have to you just have to kind of work around it. But I would say, look at that and say you're gonna do the same thing, you're gonna eat the same thing, or you're gonna pretty much carry on as you would like, but you may have to move it up, like especially for somebody who exercises or something, is it better to exercise before this early morning thing or after this early morning thing when it might be blazing hot, so it's a matter of or if it's a rare thing, like you're not going for a haircut every, other week or anything. So it might be like that day, I'm just doing it this day. I'm going to have it earlier, later, or whatever, or I'm going to skip something. If it's something that you're doing, like exercising or something, for example, you might say, well, it's not going to work out today because of this other thing. And as long as you're back on the horse the next day, it's not so terrible, you know.
So
Uh,
in the case of my 8:30 classes, which
mhm.
is there's two of them every week, okay?
Yeah.
And so I did, it's funny you mentioned what I did, which was skip the shower, right? But then everything that was stacked with the shower went by the wayside. So it's like that didn't work so well that day.
Yeah. Well, you might want to sit
It's
down. In
it
that
just
case, you might want to sit down and make a schedule. Like look at your regular schedule, and then you have these two exercise days. Um, so what would work, for instance, on a day like today, on that like that, maybe you want to shower after the exercise, or whatever, and just figure out like how, what would work for you on that day, and then that's your exercise schedule day, your exercise day schedule, see if that
yeah.
would work out, you know.
Well,
Um,
anything will work better than what I've been doing, which is no schedule. Yeah,
so now do you
yeah.
have,
It's well, I was going to say there's other things that are like Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday the same thing happens because I take another qigong class, and that's during lunch when I would be eating.
yeah,
So like maybe I have got like 4 or 5 schedules, and I just whip it out and say, well, this is my Thursday. I mean, I got to do something, you know?
yeah. Well, the thing is,
Uh,
I mean, the thing is, you're talking about whipping out the schedules, and you might have to do that for a while, but not for long. When you're okay, this is Tuesday. I've got to do this, this, and this before, and then I'll do my shower afterwards. Whatever. I mean, like, like, where you can kind of like work it out. Um, and yeah, it's much more helpful if you could do the same thing at the same time every day. That's probably the most effective. But it doesn't mean that that's the only way. So, if you have in your own head, this is my Tuesday, Wednesday schedule, and this is my Friday schedule, then, and that's, as long as you're getting the things done that you want to do, that would be helpful. And I congratulate you on exercising. That's on
oh,
my, that's on my goal list.
thank you. I'll accept that with gratitude. All right.
Yeah. So anybody else on here want to, chime in? I really would like to know what people are thinking about their habits. If they have something that they're successful in, I really like to hear about that. That would be great. But I'm not hearing much from anybody here.
Um,
So yeah.
oh, atomic habits. It keeps going back and forth because
Oh,
anyway,
yeah. Here's
my
my.
daughter. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I have to tell you, this is my daughter. This was recommended to her, and she gave it to me to read. Is that a hint? So,
So somebody thinks that you need to develop a good habit.
yeah, but what I wanted to just say to the group is Atomic Habits is it's a nice, easy read. And it's written in a way, like at the end of each chapter, there's a summary,
Mhm.
and it's very helpful. I find this is a very good book.
Yeah,
So,
I found it helpful too. I also had this book, the Wendy Wood book that I talked about, which is Good Habits, Bad Habits. That's what it's called, Good Habits, Bad Habits. And there is some helpful stuff in there, but that's the one I said begins a lot like with it, it was like a lot of research that took me back to grad school, and it was like, really, it would be a big slog. It was a slog for me, and it would be a huge slog for people who aren't used to, reading like psych research for fun. But yeah, I do recommend Atomic Habits. I think it can be very helpful. Yeah. So,
And the other
um,
thing I did is I signed up for his emails.
uh-huh.
So
Yeah, I get
and
his email too. Yeah.
yeah, they're pretty good too.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the thing is that, what the thing is to just be reflective for yourself. I think for most of us, it's like if you're saying, nuts, I did this again, or there's something that's bothering you, then you can step back and say, okay, what is it that's happening? And what do I have to change? And very often that does involve changing a habit that, especially if you see that something that's happening that's recurring that you're not that thrilled with. It could be it's becoming a habit that you don't care for. And the way to change, to break a habit, as they say, is basically to change what it is that you're doing, on a regular basis. The things that just have become automatic, you want them not to be automatic. You've got to make a new habit, you know, even if it's like sitting in a recliner with a book, that instead of doing whatever it is that, you've been doing. So I think that that's very good. Listen, it is getting toward the end. I think we have until 8:30. But one of the things that we have talked about, or we usually try to talk about at the end, if I can, is what people might want to see. I think we did talk about it at the beginning, but I don't think we got any much input here. So, like I said, we talk about um, organizing stuff, and decluttering has become very popular. We do a lot of things we have done a lot of things on decluttering, but I'm always going to talk about that, and downsizing. And I talk about time management. So, schedules, and using your time and avoiding distractions, and endless. um, but and then of course habit formation. So if anybody has something that they would like me to cover, I would really like to hear about it. And pretty much if you ask, it'll happen. I'll do it. Does anybody have any suggestions? And I noticed, just so I say, I noticed that Z has been posting, in the chat, I guess she's been putting uh, links to books that you can get through the Westchester Library System, for, that will go along with these topics that we've talked about. So there she goes, another one, organizing room by room. So, does anybody have anything to say? Please.
Dr. Pat, we had some private chats.
Uh-huh.
Where's my stuff? The ins and outs of managing space.
Mhm.
Paper in, paper out.
Mhm.
People really want to cut down on the paper, like
Yeah.
not just filing, but also scanning and deciding, how to
What
organize.
goes? When do
Yeah,
you get rid
what
of stuff?
stays. Somebody wrote like the organizing room by room was a suggestion, not a book, but it was actually a suggestion like for you to take like the
Oh, okay.
kitchen, the bedroom, the living room, the bathroom, the
Oh,
home
okay.
office, the basement, the dining room,
Oh, all
the
right. I didn't
drawers, the
realize that.
closets, the laundry room, and just kind of give us like top 3 or 4 ideas on how to, you know, tame the paper tigers and the clutter tigers.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting topic. I thought when I saw it pop up, I thought it was a book suggestion from
No, oh,
you.
sorry. The books ended
Mhm.
when I said I got some topics on private chat. So after The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg,
Mhm.
then the topics begin. Sorry. I guess they sound really good. Like they could be books. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a pretty good compliment, I guess.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah,
well,
okay.
you something there. Where's my stuff? That sparked a problem that I've been having now, which is like maybe I organized 3 years ago, right? And I don't know what I have anymore. I don't remember like where is it? And
Yeah.
I can't retrieve it. In other words, what I apparently am doing is when I put it away, it's not systematized, or
Mhm.
when I have to look for it. Like I'm putting it away where I have space or something, and
Well,
I
one
can't
of the
retrieve my.
Yeah, one of the things I would suggest for that is that, if you plan even like, every day if you can, but it doesn't have to be every day, like a decluttering one space. Because especially if your stuff is kind of organized, or if you've gone through this process before, you're not going to have a lot necessarily to do, but you'll say, oh, that's where I put that, or you can rethink maybe where did you go to look for it the first time? Here it is, you've found it now. But when you went to go look for it, because that's the best place they say to put something, if you
Right.
think to yourself, where would I look for this? And because sometimes, like you said, it's where there was a space and you stuck it in there, and it was probably fine, but then you couldn't necessarily find it when you wanted it, or you forgot you had it, or whatever. And that's another thing when you're going through stuff like that, when if you do spend the 15 minutes and I'm talking about like a drawer, a shelf. Like I'm not saying like empty a closet, really. You take really go slow with some of this because you could make yourself crazy and then turn yourself off to the whole project altogether. But if you can, um, you know, um, go take a shelf, because you might say like, why did I save this? And it goes in donation or trash, rather than back on the shelf. Or you might find something and say, oh, this really should be, in the other closet because that's where I would expect to find it. So and it's like a never ending. It doesn't have to be onerous, but it's not like a once and done. Like you can say, oh, I'm all completely organized now. I went through every closet and I did stuff. But you keep putting more stuff in as you purchase stuff or as somebody gives you things, or, and you don't always take stuff out either, so I think that I think a lot of people have that issue where it's like, I I did go through this stuff. Where did I put that thing? And or you open a closet and it's a surprise. This and this and this and this and this that you didn't remember that you put in there. And if that's the case, then maybe you don't need it anymore anyway. Maybe it will benefit somebody else, or it's really not some great, and it can go. So anyway, so that's something that I think one of the things that I found very helpful for myself is to have a box. It's in the closet of one of my four boys they're all moved out now. So I have extra bedrooms. But in the closet, on the shelf of one of the closets, I have a box. And anything that I think maybe I could donate goes in that box. Okay. And then when a box gets full, then I go through it and think of like, oh, this can go this place, this can go that place, or I know this person might like that or something. But it's so I always have a place to stash that, something that's useful, still in good condition, but I don't need it anymore. I don't want it, and I really can't afford the space for it. So that's something that you might want to think about, about doing too.
I have a specific question about how I should approach something. And I shouldn't admit this in public, but I can't I can't find my passport. I'm going to need it next year. Okay? And I don't know. Well, I this has kind of been simmering, and I'll look here and I'll look there. Like, how many hours do I give it before I fill out a new passport request, lost passport? I mean, I feel like I should make one last effort, to find
Yeah,
it before I do that, because it's going to cost money, time, effort, have to take another picture.
right. Yeah.
How would you approach this?
Well, that's the kind of thing. It's like, where would you look for it? But you've done that. You've gone through stuff. So I would,
And I thought for sure I knew where it was, and I went to the spot and it wasn't there.
yeah, yeah. Well, the only thing I can suggest is to take the 15 minutes a day. I don't know when you need this passport by, but I was going to say, take 15 minutes a day and go through a drawer a shelf or whatever each time. And, you know, eventually, if it's in the house, you'll find it. But if you need it, if you've got a trip coming up, and you're going to need a passport, then I would begin the process, you know, at the post office or wherever to get yourself a new passport. But if it's just a matter of like, where the hell can this be? This should be here, or I don't have it, or, you know, I thought it was in here. I would say then to, you know, start decluttering. And it may not be a lot of decluttering. You've said, it sounds like you've done a lot of work already, but just go through the, like, you know, in a dresser, you do this drawer, this drawer, this drawer, this drawer, not all at one time, but 15 minutes worth, you know, 2 drawers or 1 drawer or whatever it is, whatever you can get done. And when the timer goes off, that's it, or you make yourself crazy. You know, that's what I find. Even at the most, I would take a session like early in the day and a session later in the day, but not, you know, not any more than that. Like one or two 15-minute sessions would be, you know, is great. And then I would just let it go. But you know, I'm sure that you have a lot of drawers, a lot of closets, you know, a lot of bookshelves, a lot of, you know, and and when you find it, you'll say, "Oh yeah, I remember that." Like I remember putting it in there. That was where I was looking was the time before last, you know, like that's kind of what happens. Because
It's just,
it's probably not
there-
gone.
oh no, it's not gone, and it's in a Ziploc bag with my old passports. It's somewhere. It hasn't gone anywhere unless it went out with the trash by mistake.
No, it's not likely.
But no, it isn't. And the thing is that you just helped me with is I've been thinking I have to spend a large block of time looking for this. This is not, I have a month. I can do 15 minutes a day, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And the other
Nice.
thing is, if you have a file cabinet, would you have filed it someplace?
Well, that's a horror show. The
What?
file cabinet. Yes, that's one of the things that I think could have happened. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's yeah, so that but you know, like that's where your 15 minutes come in. You can put a post-it at the end of where you checked in the file cabinet. But anyway, but that's you're gonna you're gonna have to let me know how you did with that.
Okay.
Whether you found your I'm gonna worry about your passport now. So
Oh, well, that actually is very sweet. So thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna we'll probably talk about, I have to talk to Z about it, and you know, but organizing room by room then for you know, for not next month because we're not monthly anymore, but it would be in October. So okay. I want to thank you all for coming. I think this was, you know, I'm grateful, and I wish we had more participants, more people chatting. But you know, maybe we can move that along somehow. Okay, I do have a list of books
Okay.
about habit. You know, and I probably have 1 or 2 I can add to that too. So yes, I will when I send out usually after the meetings, I do send out you know, some notes and usually bibliography. So I will do that. So, all right. So thank you very much. And hopefully I'll see you in October.